Good start.
Do you think it caught me yawning?
Yeah.
Okay. Wait, this is a picture from the art opening.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Pregnancy Desktop, week 17. So this is, as if you've been here before, this is, as you know, inspired by the NBA Desktop by Jason. I will get to that.
You're supposed to start with that.
I'm getting tips from my partner. I'm supposed to start with who I am. So I'm Donna. I'm a two-time Olympian. Now I'm pregnant, and we decided that it would be fun to do this vlog and capture the journey and capture everything that we felt was fit in a vlog, inspired by Jason Concepcion from The Ringer and his awesome vlog, his awesome NBA Desktop. So for us right now, where we're at is week 17. And as usual, I like to open with my brand of humor. So here we go. So Daniel, were you really surprised this week when we went into the ultrasound room and there was no dancing, no singing?
I wasn't that surprised.
You weren't surprised?
I'm disappointed.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, because the doctor, didn't she say she ordered us a sonogram?
Songogram?
Songogram?
Songogram. Okay, got it. Yeah.
All right. So, okay. So this week, looking around at all the information out there that tells you how big your baby is when you're at week 17, the most popular opinion seems to be that it's the size of a pear. There's also a couple of places that suggest onion, which is interesting because last week was also an onion. There was a couple of apples. There was turnips, which I think that's what you guessed. We try to guess each week what it's going to be. So you got that one. And there was also a pomegranate, ! And baked potato. Interesting that they specified baked. And I liked this one, order of fries, because it also goes with this one, taco. I don't eat a lot of fries, but since I've been pregnant, I've been craving kind of like salty food. So, and then Baby Sizer, our favorite website to give the size, said it's the Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch. So I thought, just for some entertainment, we could watch what that's from, just the first few seconds of it.
The Holy Hand Grenade! Yes, of course! The Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch is one of the sacred relics Brother Maynard carries with him. Brother Maynard, bring up the Holy Hand Grenade!
Pie Jesu Domine, dona eis requiem.
Okay, I'm cutting it off there. It's really good, but you can find it. Okay, so we've been doing little updates, and the first main update that we've been covering for the last several weeks is the SCH, which stands for a couple of things. One of them is subchorionic hemorrhage. And this week we had an ultrasound to just check on the viability. And so here's a picture. Oh, right. I have to load it somewhere else. So I have a picture to show you what that looked like. So I'm laying here getting the ultrasound. I'm smiling at this point because although I can't see the screen, I've been told that they're still actually alive. And even though there was like this really tiny chance that things weren't, had gone really badly, we didn't know. I feel like you don't really know, and you get these moments of feedback every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or a month apart. So yeah, it was a huge relief. And it's a viability ultrasound, so they're not really there to do detailed measurements. They're just checking, they're mainly checking on the subchorionic hemorrhage or hematoma. So we got the kind of like initial all okay, but the official all okay comes when we get the report from our doctor, which is coming up next week. So that's an update on that. That was, I think, we'll know more next week. Speaking of coming up, so, can you throw the picture open? Okay. This is how I've been feeling this week, and so coming up this week, I hope I get to take more naps. This was one of the best naps I had in the last little while with a lovely dog. We found, I know this is a digression, but we found a place to crash on a sleeping bag together. So we have a follow-up on the ultrasound picture I showed you. And we also have a meeting with the dietitian. If we get any good tips, I'll bring them up next week. And we have an appointment to actually do a genetic screening test. So I'm going to talk to you about how we got there. So this last week, we had a meeting with the genetic counselors. And they started off, so not every hospital offers this, I think. I'm really glad that ours did because it was really informative. And we went, and the first thing the genetic counselor did was kind of trace our family tree. This isn't ours, but they basically very thoroughly went through both sides of our family up to our cousins and asked us all kinds of questions about, when and how people had passed away, if they had, and if they had children, were there anything, like, they were looking for patterns of anything that had come up in the family that could be genetically passed on. And the next thing we did was cover in a bit more detail the screening tests and options available. And last week I mentioned really quickly this NIPT test. So just a recap, what it does is it takes some blood that has both my DNA and the fetus's DNA. And how it works is by looking at the ratios. So they can't know, for example, like which part comes from the mom, which part comes from the kid. But what they can do is look at the ratios of things and see if, for example, like if you just look at chromosome 3, so you have all these chromosomes. If you look at just this third bar here, for example, there's a ratio of mom's DNA, the pale color, and fetus DNA, and they can count, they can basically say they know the ratio should be the same for all the different chromosomes. And so if you look at 21 and 22, 22 they know is not going to change. 21 can change, however, and if it does, that's, I think that's Down syndrome, actually. So what they would do is say if 21 is the same proportion as 22, we know there's no extra stuff. But if it's a little bit higher, like in this picture here, if there's a little extra, we know that didn't come from mom. So therefore it must be from the baby. Therefore the baby must have extra. Therefore the baby has Down syndrome. Or like a 99.9% chance or something. So they explained that to us really well. I have done like a much poorer job than they did, but it was really interesting to learn because it allows you to understand what you can and can't do in the case of twins. And also, while it does check a lot of those really more common things related to those chromosomes, like trisomy 21 and 18, it doesn't look for something else called microdeletions, except for the most common ones. So here's all the different kinds of microdeletions you can have. And these are less common, but as a whole, we learned that they're more common than you'd expect, like 2 to 3% of the normal population, I think. So I'm looking at Daniel in case he remembers. So that's one thing that NIPT can't check for. I have a little picture to explain what a microdeletion is, because it's just like it can happen even like, someone's not predisposed or doesn't have a genetic condition. It's just that everyone's chromosomes are, I think, susceptible to this happening. And so when it does happen, a little bit of genetic material goes away. And here you go. Here's a shorter chromosome. It looks really cute in this picture. But so we found out that in order to check for that, we can do the other test, which is Amnio. And I also explained what this was a little bit last week. So just a reminder, it's when they actually take a sample. Oh, here we go. So they're taking a sample of fluid. So some things we learned in this meeting with geneticists is that the rates of like something going wrong, so for example, they could put the needle in, and I think one of the things that could go wrong is that it could afterwards induce contractions, and those are really hard to stop, and so that's really bad. But the chance is quite low, and the chances over the years, because years ago they used to do this without an ultrasound, and now they do it with, and they also, when they put this needle in, they don't leave the pointy end in. they just use it to pierce the skin, and then they leave like a nub in. So even if you were inside, if you picture being the fetus for a second and like hit up against it, you wouldn't be hitting up against a sharp needle. So anyway, all of these advances mean that the odds have changed over the years, and also they did a study at the particular hospital we're going to, and it's about 1 in 1,000 of something going wrong. So there's a few other things. So I'm getting into the weeds here, all to say that we learned this stuff we wouldn't have known without going to the genetic counselor, and it was really useful information. So we also learned one other thing, that there's this other test available called expanded carrier screening, and that just means that like if I'm a carrier and my partner's a carrier, we won't have the issue, like it wouldn't show up, but we have a chance that our kid could have it. So in order to know whether we have it, we can do these blood tests. And what we decided is that we would do them. So we would do the expanded carrier screening, and if we find out that there's something, then it can help the amnio that we're going to have. It can help them look specifically for those things. So basically, in the end, our decision, and it's so personal and so dependent on the specifics, was to kind of like do the tests, find out the information. And yeah, I just wanted to we're kind of ending on that note, and it was like crucial that we're doing this with the idea of like we know what we're going to do next with that information. I think if we didn't know, we wouldn't be able to do it. And that's it's been really interesting because it leads you into some really, some possibly into some discussions about really personal values and life and death. And that I think has been like a really nice thing of this week and the last weeks, or to like getting to know your partner and like what they think about these really interesting, like life, meaningful, big picture topics. Okay, so I'm signing off. That's week 17, and hopefully see you next week.